call and response. I'm going to have some questions. So it's going to be a regular sermon with a little bit of interaction here at the same time. So the gospel reading from this morning comes with some rather popular and common phrases, right? Salt of the earth, light of the world. Preaching on topics that people are already really familiar with, poses kind of a special challenge for me. The reason for that is that you've already got concepts in your mind of what it means, right? When we call somebody the salt of the earth. And if you're like me, you grew up singing, "This little light of mine" in Sunday school, and so, hide it under a bush, oh no, I'm gonna let it shine. So you've got these kind of preconceived notions, and salt of the earth, light of the world. It's like, what more is there to talk about? We get it, right? Well, this might sound counterintuitive, but sometimes the things that we understand the least are these phrases that we know so well, and we've come to internalize them. So, if we call somebody the salt of the earth, that kind of typically means we're describing somebody who's, humble, hardworking, modest, down to earth kind of thing. So as we strive to understand the gospel reading today, I'd like to invite you to open your minds and consider those metaphors in maybe a different way than we're used to. So we'll start with the fundamentals, like what is salt, and then what is light. And then from there, we'll talk about how we are like them. And then lastly, we'll bring it home with some examples of how we can be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. So here's the first little bit of the interactivity today. I'm going to offer a couple prompts, and you're going to bravely and boldly yell out the answers for me, okay? Good, I hear some encouraging engagement. That's positive. Okay, so tell me, what is salt? What does it do? What do we use it for? Seasoning. Flavor of food, yep, that's all kind of the same category, right? It's a flavor enhancer. Salt is a flavor enhancer. For curing meats, it's a preservative, right? It can keep things safe, for long storage. To melt snow, that's another big one. Yep, exactly. To freeze ice cream, right? So that's kind of the same vein, right? The chemical properties of salt allow the freezing temperature of water to be lower than it would be normally, and so that allows us to melt ice on the snow, right? And then also make ice cream. Very good. It's a mineral. That's right. It's essential for health. Yep. That's pretty good. I think that's actually everything I came up with too. I kind of had the same flavor enhancer, food preservative. It's an ice melt, snow melt. It's an electrolyte for hydration. Like a saline solution, right? If you have any, your eyes and stuff, you got to put that in your eyes, saline solution. If you have an IV and you need some electrolytes and fluids, saline solution, right? So salt and water and the right properties. Yeah, very good. Perfect. So now, same thing with like light now. What does it do? What do we use it for? What is light? To see. Yeah, we need light to see, right? That's how we see, is light is bouncing into our eyeballs and then being focused into our optical nerve, and then that allows our brain to process the world around us visually. It requires light to do that, right? That's perfect. Vitamins, exactly. Yeah, it's an essential. It provides essential nutrients for our body. Sunlight can be healthy for us, right? It provides vitamin D. Kind of in the same vein, that's what plants use for photosynthesis, right? It requires light energy to create, for the plants to grow, and then that, allows the circle of life to happen. We can eat the plants and all that stuff. Light is a source of energy. In the good old days, to see to the outhouse at night, right? So that kind of in the same vein of like seeing, right? You need to have a little light to see. Yep, absolutely. Any other things with light that we can think of? No, that's pretty good. Because I had a little more time to think about this, right? So I wasn't just put on the spot like all of you were. So some scientific applications of light, right? When light is focused and when it's very specific, we can create things like lasers. We can create things like radiology for specific medical treatments. That's some other uses of light, is we can focus it. We can be very intense about it, very intentional. So those are some wide ranges of scientific applications. But of course, vision in the darkness, that's the biggest one. and then like energy and a source for plants. No, very good. Thank you all for interacting with me on that and for boldly and bravely participating. You actually came up with exactly what I came up with, and you did exactly the thing that I expected would happen, is that we only talked about the positive things associated with salt and light, right? But of course, it's not all perfect. There's nothing, it's not like these things are always good, right? There's some negatives that can come out as well, and I'll come up with some examples here. So as salt is a flavor enhancer, right? Well, in excess, it renders food inedible, right? So imagine it's a couple weeks ago and you're preparing your soup for the annual soup cook-off, right? And you're sprinkling a little salt into the pot, and all of a sudden the lid comes off and the entire shaker of salt falls in. Well, now you've ruined your soup. You got to throw it all away. This thing that was good, that was going to make something better, just ruined it all with too much of it. The same thing with snow melt or ice melt, right? If you have dogs or pets, that kind of thing, you have to be very careful with the kind of ice melt that you put down, because that can cause chemical burns to the pads of the dog's feet, right? So the same thing that we use for a helping factor can actually be really detrimental and cause serious harm. Kind of the same thing with light, right? The very same thing that we need light to see. We need it to see. But if we get too much of it, you get a bright light right in your face, you go blind. If not temporarily, you could even go blind kind of permanently, right? You get too much light in your face, that's a big old problem. That same sunlight that gives life to all plants and is good for our health and provides us vitamin D to our skin, in too much quantities can potentially cause cancerous sunburns. And in the same way, the scientific applications of light, like lasers and radiology and these kinds of things, if used incorrectly, can cause more harm than good. And we can weaponize these things. We can create weapons out of light at the same time. Too much of a good thing becomes not so good anymore. So hopefully at this point, you're all kind of feeling the weight of what I'm talking about here. Salt and light aren't inherently good. They're not inherently bad, and they're not even inherently neutral. They're just things. They are tools for change. Have you heard the saying, the dose makes the poison? It's basically the idea that I'm talking about here, but it's the idea that there's a point where, too much of a good thing, it's a good thing, and you get too much, and now it's a bad thing, it hurts you. And that's kind of what came to mind for me when I was doing the work for putting together this sermon. When Jesus is calling us to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Because in the correct amounts, applied carefully in the correct places, salt and light can be tremendously helpful and meaningful. And they can take something that's pretty boring or mundane, if not impossible to do, and it makes it good or possible. But the inverse of that is true too. If we put ourselves into something too much, if we overdo it, we have the power to make things worse. Just as a skilled chef knows in the kitchen, you can always add more salt, but you can't take back what you've already put in. So this is that new and fresh perspective that I want you to see when reading this well-known passage and when considering these very common phrases to us, salt of the earth, light of the world. We as individuals are very powerful. And power is neither good nor bad nor neutral. It just is, right? It can be used for good and it can be used for bad too. And the consequences might not be obvious right away. So let's ground ourselves a second. Let's go back to the scripture. We've just covered verses 13, 14, and 15. Jesus' words were, "You are the salt of the earth, and you are the light of the world." It's subtle, but Jesus isn't giving us a command yet. He's just identifying us. He's calling us for what we are. We are these things that are synonymous with change or power, right? But it is in verse 16 that Jesus gives us a command. "Let your light shine forth before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." So now we have something actionable. Let your light shine. Now, this is another bit of an interactive part. It's going to be a little more passive on your side, but I'm going to have to take your word for it that you're doing it with me. I would like to ask you to do some visualizations with me, okay? I'm going to describe some different ways that, we interact with light, and you're just going to picture it, okay? Great. And then, I want you to pay attention. They all have a different impact, and they're all going to make us feel a different way. There's going to be 4 of them, so first one here. You get up in the middle of the night to get a drink of water. It's pitch black, except for a tiny night light in the hallway, just enough to guide your way. Can you picture that? Very good. Second one now. You're cozied up in your favorite sweatshirt and your lawn chair, sitting in a circle with your friends outside around a campfire. The fire crackling is the only light source other than the moon and the stars. Very good. Next one. You're standing shoulder to shoulder in a crowd of people, all rocking out to your favorite music group at a summer concert. There's multicolored lights and laser beams and strobes flooding and washing over you as you sing along to your favorite song. Very good. Now, last visualization. You're driving at night on a peaceful highway. As you round a gentle curving hill, a car in the opposite lane forgets to turn their brights off as they pass you by. You squint and swear and try to blink those lingering lights away. That's the last of those 4 visualizations. Thank you for joining me in that. I saw people's eyes closed, and I could kind of see people following along with me there. Thank you. Hopefully that little exercise helps to illustrate my point that when Jesus tells us to let our light shine, there is still the obvious caveat that we shouldn't be causing harm with that. Because kind of what that means metaphorically, right, to let our light shine is to show the world our faith, right, is to speak our faith, sometimes in words, but otherwise with our actions and thoughts and deeds, and that's what that means, right? So that's the metaphor, right? So that's different, though, from, our job isn't to just grab someone by the shoulders and, shake them hard enough until they get it, right? Even though sometimes we kind of want to. Be like, why don't you just get this? I just want you to understand what I'm trying to say. God is great. Just understand this message. Well, our mission, rather than, the make them see, is shine the light in a way that can help people to see rather than blind them or overwhelm them. So what this looks like in reality is to meet people where they are. We all have people in our lives that are at different stages in their faith journey. I mean, and we all do it. We all cycle through, right? I've had high stages and low points, and times where my faith has been challenged, and times when my faith has felt really strong. And I'm sure I'm somewhere in the middle, or probably in the strong side. Who knows, right? It's all a journey, and we're all on it. And so sometimes we're just lost and looking for direction, and sometimes people are just so lost that they've thrown away the map and the compass, and they've quit searching. They're just like, okay, I quit. That's it. It's too dark. I can't see my way out. So depending on where we all are in our journey and where people are in our lives that we might want to help and support, each of those cases requires a different level of support, a different light to show a better path. Right? So with those visualization exercises we did, maybe we can be a light. Maybe what people need is a nightlight. Just, a tiny little thing that's just helping them not stub their toe along the way. Sometimes they need the comfort of a nice warm campfire in the summertime under the stars. And sometimes they need the excitement, the adrenaline, the rush of oh my gosh, we're at this rock concert and we're having a great time with our music and our friends and celebrating together. And that's okay too. Right? We are children of God, and that means that we are allowed the full range of the human experience. So it is okay to have a lot of fun and do that in the name of God. And some would argue that having a lot of fun is the most convincing way that we can do to shine our light, right? If we're living our lives to the fullest, enjoying all of life's blessings, experiencing all the pains and everything in between, and doing it graciously in the light of the Lord, I mean, what better way to get people to see the light of Christ than by living it ourselves, right? By putting ourselves out there as a beacon of hope and opportunity. To not make the promise that life with Christ is perfect or easy all the time, but that it is rich in grace. For God knows that none of us are perfect, and all of us need that grace. It's something that we just cannot do on our own. Now, one more thing on this topic to really hit that point home again. We can shine that light. We can be that light. We should be that light. But we cannot force others to do the same, right? That's really the point I need you guys to understand. There's a difference there. We can show them how we do it, but we cannot expect everybody to follow. I mean, no matter how hard we try, we can only control our own minds and our own actions. So therefore, we cannot control the minds and actions of others. So inevitably, when our light is shining, it's going to attract attention. And attention is just like energy. It's positive or negative, right? And when, not if, but when we are received with negative attention, we are not to turn around and weaponize that light. We're not allowed to intentionally shine those high beams into somebody's eyes for the sake of harming them. No. That's not what Jesus' message is. We're to shine the light in a helpful way. Find the balance. Shine the light for the glory of God, not for our own glory, and not to show off how shiny and nice we are, but for God's glory. God is the source of the light, and we are the vessel that God's light shines through. Let us not misuse that gift. I'm going to end on just a quick prayer here, if you all pray with me. Dear God, please help us to be the kind of salt that makes life richer. Please help us to be the light that helps others find their way to you. And may we remember that how we shine matters just as much as if we shine at all. Amen.